Hey everyone, Crisis here. After the release of Spider-Man No Way Home in 2021, and with Deadpool and Wolverine having come out, we seem to have entered a renaissance for the last generation of Marvel's heroes on the big screen, the no-contest definitive Marvel icons of the 2000s. But before the advent of interconnected cinematic universes, we as fans were denied the chance to see these two titans of Marvel meet or even trade blows. But with the MCU bridging the gaps between Sony and Fox, cracking open the multiverse, dreams once laid to rest might just be possible, maybe even inevitable. But considering the feats showcased across their already numerous appearances, who would actually win between these classic cinematic portrayals of Marvel's arguably most popular characters? Let's find out. But before we get into that, I have to say that ever since getting them, I've been really enjoying the new Raycon earbuds. You've probably already heard of them, which makes sense since they've already sold 3 million of their classic style everyday earbuds. I personally got their updated model, which feels like a steal considering they sound and work just as good as earbuds that are double the price. I tend to get pretty easily distracted by other sounds nearby, but with Raycon's noise cancellation feature, I can really hone in on writing or research. The new buds as well support quick charging, they're waterproof and sweat resistant, and come in various colors and styles of their everyday protective cases. To support the channel and get a pair of top quality earbuds for 15% off and free shipping, click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/crisis. With that said, let's dig into the topic. A good baseline, likely across whatever version of Wolverine we're talking about, are his indestructible claws and skeleton made of adamantium. Across many of the X-Men films, we are told and shown that this metal is unbreakable, with supplemental material calling them such over and over again. An official Japanese flyer for X-Men 2 even calls them the strongest weapons, period, funny enough. Between this and the various statements pertaining to Logan or his rival Sabretooth, calling either of them the strongest mutants or the ultimate warrior, with even X-Men 1 and 2's writer noting him as one of the most powerful mutants alive.
Yeah, and the idea that, this is this essentially naked woman fighting one of the most powerful mutants in the world.
It should be fair to scale him to the bulk of the feats shown in the X-Men movies. So just how durable would this actually make him? Weapon 11 in X-Men Origins manages to blast apart a nuclear silo, with Logan and Sabretooth tanking such, with this amount of force being calculated at around 400 million joules, or roughly the force it would take to destroy a small building. Gambit as well in the same movie totally vaporized a massive chunk of concrete with his attacks, yielding power nearly equal to 2 tons of TNT. Negasonic Teenage Warhead managed to produce a massive explosion calculated to equal 27 tons of force, which is enough to wipe away an entire city block. Going even crazier, Sabretooth managed to endure Storm's full power based on official lore, with Aurora managing to create multiple tornadoes and massive storms with apparently less than her full power. The force behind even one hurricane or tornado roughly yields kinetic energy enough to level large towns. Jean Grey as the Phoenix possessed unsurpassed power, enough to transcend all rules and realities according to the official X-Men 3 novel, which was fully endorsed by the film's writers.
I think one of the really interesting things is, if anybody has read the novelization, which amazingly enough was written by Chris Claremont, who, of course, any X-fan knows is a huge influence on the series.
She was breaking down matter at the atomic level.
Hey, what made you decide to go with all the little pieces?
Well, because part of her power is atomizing.
Right.
Which would have eventually destroyed the planet, according to an official Japanese pamphlet for Logan, recapping the rest of the movies. Wolverine managed to heal from all of this, with his skeleton, more importantly, being undamaged through it all. So it's possible that his skeleton and claws can endure attacks transcending reality, as crazy as that might sound, or at least threaten the entire planet. Was Jean conflicted during this, holding back to such an unfathomable degree? It's possible, but it's not said outright. What really casts doubt on the whole notion of Wolverine scaling to the Phoenix in any capacity is evidenced within the X3 official novel, which actually states that Jean's powers were amplifying Logan's, seemingly as a way to justify this feat at all. So considering all of his other less impressive showings which portray him as far weaker than this, it seems to be the case that this simply is not Wolverine's genuine power level for at least his healing ability. His speed is, however, near the speed of light, as Cyclops' optic beams are noted as such and behave similarly to light in the movie's novels and the films themselves. Wolverine, Sabretooth, Storm, even Toad dodge these light attacks many times. Wolverine is also an expert combatant, not exactly a master of every martial art like in the comics, but he can contend with and outdo fighters boasting their own mastery of hand-to-hand. He also has experience fighting in the Civil War, World War I, II, Vietnam, and the Sentinel War, as well as fighting against mutants with varied abilities and skills. Moving on to Spider-Man of the Sam Raimi film trilogy as well as No Way Home. Starting off naturally at his first movie, Goblin's pumpkin bombs were calculated to yield enough power to wipe out a city block when they utterly annihilated 6 grown adults in an instant. This follows well in line with later examples of Goblin's tech, such as his missiles, which yield even greater forces based on their ability to bust a military bunker. This being 124 tons of TNT or enough power to destroy multiple city blocks. Spider-Man should be durable enough to survive all of this, considering Goblin felt he was practically invincible after battling him twice, meaning he most likely believes his high-tier tech would not be enough to kill him. Black Suit Spidey as well managed to generate multiple minor quakes according to the Daily Bugle, and what's implied to be his bout with Sandman, which were felt all throughout the New York City subway system, which is, in layman's terms, multi-city block level. However, this is all child's play compared to the scaling implications found within both Goblin and Tobey's inclusion in No Way Home. The MCU had over 10 years of its own feats of power, with Tom Holland's version of the wall crawler benefiting from such. He was a novice before Homecoming, with the latter half of that movie seeing the MCU Spider-Man dig deep and unlock further reserves of his own strength, which even he didn't know he had. After healing up from his battle against the Vulture, his new power would immediately be seen when he shrugs off attacks from Cull Obsidian, an acolyte of Thanos who was just seen withstanding attacks from and bashing into Iron Man's most powerful armor at the time, who then goes on to dent and break apart the Hulkbuster later on in Infinity War. The Hulkbuster Mark I went toe-to-toe with the angriest Hulk ever seen on film, someone who could draw blood from the very same Thor, who destroyed the entire city of Sokovia in Age of Ultron and shook the whole of the ice planet of Jotunheim in Thor 1. To shake an entire world would roughly take around 40 teratons of TNT, or enough energy to vaporize a country all at once. And MCU Spider-Man was cracking jokes after catching strikes from Cull Obsidian. He then receives what is called the Ultimate Spider-Man armor in the form of the integrated suit. This Spider-Man then has his full power strikes laughed at by Spider-Man 1 Green Goblin's bare face, with Tom needing a bloodlust rage boost to win by the end of No Way Home, which still had Goblin laughing and begging for more. This means that, retroactively, the cast of Spider-Man 1 scales to Phase 1 Thor, Phase 2 Hulk, and Cull Obsidian according to No Way Home. This can be a pretty hard pill for people to swallow, that any Spider-Man is this powerful. But remember again that he hadn't unlocked his full strength until Homecoming, and that his powers, his spider sense in particular, was acting up in Far From Home, meaning his ability to anticipate upcoming attacks was severely inhibited for much of the film. By the end of that movie, he'd mastered his precognition. This is consistent considering that Spider-Man 2 Doc Ock could rip apart the Iron Spider, Sandman saved Tom Holland from Electro, and so on. If you really want to go crazy, the Lizard from the Amazing Spider-Man 1 somehow managed to cut up and press Doctor Strange in an off-screen altercation. The same mage that required Thanos with 4 Infinity Stones to go all out on Titan, with just the Power Stone alone being able to destroy entire planets, and Tobey was just kicking around and overpowering Lizard like he owed him rent, so make of that what you will. As far as his speed, his precog aids in his ability to dodge lightning. He even manages to keep up with and ultimately outpace Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, who evaded Electro within The Amazing Spider-Man 2, a being which could move at the speed of light according to that film's director.
When he could disappear into into currents or into a light socket or into an electroslide. Like how do you fight somebody who can move at the speed of light?
So Tobey's Spider-Man should be within that speed of light range, as well as sporting precognitive danger sense. His fighting style is acrobatic and unpredictable, and with his webs he can create many offensive and defensive constructs. Seeing as he scales to Tom Holland's Spider-Man, someone who could trade hands with Captain America and the Winter Soldier, who are some of the deadliest and most well-trained combatants in the MCU, being masters of most martial arts and possibly the most prolific killer ever, respectively. An inexperienced Tom Holland Spidey was able to land blows on and evade many attacks from them both, yet Green Goblin could toy around with him, the same Goblin that Tobey blocked, countered, and outmaneuvered in hand-to-hand. Safe to say that his spider sense and unorthodox combat form, mixed with decades of experience, make the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man a match for most foes. So with both of the heroes from our collective childhoods detailed, which one of Marvel's most classic cinematic icons stands supreme? Who's truly stronger? Well, here's the thing. There's a major caveat to Wolverine's durability, which is actually well in line in the comics. His skin can heal and his bones may never break, but blunt force trauma has and can be used against him to great effect. Again, his powers were amplified, likely to insane levels against the Phoenix, so we can't say that he'd heal beyond anything which he's been shown to withstand, which happens to be far less powerful than Raimi's Spider-Man's strikes. Just look at Sabretooth whacking him over the head with a tree, a normal bullet to the head, a car crash. All of these rather mundane things have managed to put Logan under even after he received his adamantium bones. The most durable beings he can slash are enemies like Sabretooth. Even if we use statements calling his claws the strongest weapons as of X-Men 2, that would only mean they pack the force of a nuclear bomb, just using those terms hyper literally, mind you. He still succumbed to blunt force trauma much weaker than that. As the Hulk put it in the World War Hulk comics, what's gonna happen when his brain bounces against his unbreakable skull? Spider-Man, by contrast, already had the same kind of hyper literal nuke scaling when Venom and Sandman boasted unrivaled power in Spider-Man 3, and would actually be able to strike with far more raw power than what Wolverine's noggin's been shown enduring. Whether it's breaking Sokovia or shaking a planet. Shocking, I know, but keep in mind, peak Thor or Hulk would slaughter Tobey. But thanks to Cull Obsidian and Goblin being shoved into the MCU's power scaling, the Raimi-verse Spider-Man would necessarily upscale from the earlier showings performed by the God of Thunder and the Jade Giant, feats that Wolverine simply doesn't sport. While a version of Wolverine fought a version of the Hulk, I'll address that later. As far as speed, Tobey would actually be one step ahead. Not only does he have danger sense and can likely foretell whatever Wolverine's next move would be ahead of time, but he's also outpaced another Spider-Man who dodged light speed attacks back to back to back to back. Compare that to Fox's Wolverine, who just reacts to light speed attacks at best. And while Logan is a master fighter, far more skilled than Tobey on paper, surely, and has plenty of military experience, he usually leaned into his healing factor to keep him alive, and would probably have been killed if not for it. He also lets his berserker rage get the better of him, like in the books, and tends to ignore his own martial arts skills. A version of Spider-Man who Tobey surpasses managed to counter and block attacks from two of his world's best fighters, and Raimi's Wallcrawler actually has a lot of experience against super metal blade wielders. Goblin had cutting-edge tech 20 years ahead of the curve, even by today's standards. Doc Ock had 4 metal arms which were resistant to heat and magnetism. New Goblin's tech was even better than Norman's, and apparently Ock's blades were adamantium, much like Wolverine's, which might just be weird trivia since it's on his figure's description. Interesting to note regardless. Tobey's wisdom and experience is officially noted as even greater than Tom Holland's Spidey, who has already seen and fought Captain America, Falcon, Winter Soldier, Giant Man, Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, and and Thanos. Tom did all of that, and the writers of the MCU still assert that Tobey is the wiser and more experienced of the two. Logan, on the other hand, hasn't come across someone with Peter's skill set. That all being said, Spidey could totally get punctured or decapitated, for sure. One clean hit and it's done. Although he did manage to stand up a few minutes after having his spine punctured, but anyway. By that same token though, Spider-Man is faster, has fought Wolverine-like and more varied enemies, and possesses the striking power to knock out Logan with one strike to the adamantium skull. Since Thor shaking a planet, Sokovia's explosion, or even the energy from early Iron Man armors which MCU Spider-Man would scale above, are all so much farther beyond everything Logan's been able to withstand. Peter's just so much faster and stronger than Wolverine that he could probably just keep punching him in the face to the point that he just totally forgets what he's doing there, and he just leaves like in X-Men Origins. Which, after looking at all the facts, does seem like the most likely outcome. That's what would happen if the more so classic version of Hugh Jackman Wolverine faced Spider-Man. Is the case the same for the quote-unquote worst version of the character from the new movie? For starters, this variant has a totally different history than his prior portrayal. He seemingly never joined the X-Men based on the fact that he never wore the suit and was pretty much a washed-up drunk through and through. This means any feats performed from the X-Men films are all out of the window. Later in the film, when Nova enters this Logan's mind, we are shown quick flashes of shots from films such as X-Men Origins, 2, 3, and Logan. What we're told and shown through dialogue contradicts the notion that Wolverine ever lived through those films. The fact that it shows Logan here at all, a film where Wolverine grows old and dies after an entirely different death of the X-Men than what the worst Wolverine was said to have lived through, really casts the entire notion in doubt. This drives home a larger point. When making the most accurate assessment of the character's abilities, especially ones that have been interpreted so differently with varying strength levels across all kinds of universes and mediums, we pretty much have to start with a blank slate. Wolverine from X-Men 97 does not have the same power level as Ultimate Alliance Wolverine. You know, the one that can fight and help defeat Doctor Doom with Odin's universal level of power. So with that said, what does this new Wolverine perform on his own? Well, he's clearly the stronger of the two between himself and Deadpool. They can obviously damage one another, but Wolverine just launches weight and bullies him when it comes to force versus force. Deadpool is equipped with adamantium katanas and might have bullets stronger than Weapon 11 from Origins based on the post-credit scene of Deadpool 2. The sad fact about Deadpool though is he really should be far out of his prime, considering he's been selling cars for the past 6 years. Even in his peak, Wade would get very often crippled by low-level falls and has to painstakingly heal every time. Regular bullets damage him, knives cut him. In fact, a bunch of gasoline completely blows him apart. So unless Ajax, a random mutant whose only power is that he doesn't feel pain, can tank attacks from Sabretooth, Storm, Juggernaut, and so on, then this new Wolverine is so far below the original that it's not even funny. Some might point out how Deadpool manages to break a rib off of the original Logan's skeleton. However, this falls flat under some critical thinking. Old man Logan's metal in his bones were leaking into his system, implying they were becoming diluted by his blood, potentially. More to the point, in X-Men Origins, we see a younger Wolverine survive 2 point-blank shots to the head by adamantium bullets, whereas X-24 had his head completely blown off by a single one. This younger clone of Logan bullying his older self throughout the rest of the movie. Logan's bones are simply shown to be degraded compared to an era wherein he hadn't even reached his prime, which is after the Wolverine film. X-24 was an infant clone and was nearly taken out by a car, a shotgun, and some farm equipment. And old man Logan's claws were at best equal to 24's. Funnily enough, this new Wolverine shoulder checks a normal van and doesn't even dent the front end, in a fight where the director confirmed him and Wade were trying to kill one another.
Huge chunks of the movie where Deadpool and Wolverine want to kill each other.
The rest of the feats he performs in the film follow a similar theme. Sabretooth, Lady Deathstrike, and the rest of the foes he faces in the Void are all multiversal counterparts. The Sabretooth actor even confirmed as much. We have no idea how strong they are. We can't even use casting or looks as a judge of that either, as later on in the same movie, Deadpool alongside Wolverine manages to get the better of a small army of mostly identical Wade Wilsons. Not to mention other examples such as Thanos and What If somehow getting zero diffed by essentially Vision with one Infinity Stone, or Spider-Man from the zombie episode struggling to pull a train when that should be a lot easier for him. Many more examples confirm that you can have identical variants across the multiverse with far weaker stats than others, which seems to be the case for this Wolverine. However, we still have to address the end of the film, which is a doozy. One of the movie's villains has a device that can essentially destroy timelines, and Deadpool, with the help of Wolverine, creates a bridge between its two power sources and manages to survive the ordeal and destroy said villain named Cassandra Nova. Not only do we have a myriad of instances across the Deadpool films, as well as this entry going far and away to show that these two can be harmed by literally infinitely weaker means than this possibly timeline erasing level of energy. Also, Cassandra Nova was bullying both Deadpool and Wolverine during the rest of the film, which makes this ending where they survive energy which overpowers her even more dubious. Is Ajax, Colossus, Deadpool 2 Juggernaut, are they all far more powerful than the universe? Is this Hyundai van enduring half of universal levels of energy when it tanks Logan's shoulder dash? This is literally a single feat, far and away contradicting what these fighters have been shown capable of performing. The movie offers an excuse, and I'm gonna take it. Wolverine and Deadpool, plus holding hands, plus listening to Madonna, equals fucking indestructible. To bring it back home, even while losing his powers, Tobey tanks falls that would splatter Deadpool across the pavement. I think what really happened here was the Time Ripper short-circuiting in the presence of a new anchor being. With the original Wolverine's death weakening the timeline, it stands to reason that a new one to take his place would enforce the stability of the universe rather than being so powerful outright in a combative sense. I think he just fulfilled this newly created cosmic role. To put it plainly, if Wolverine has Madonna blaring, he might be pulling Tobey apart at an atomic level. If not, then this fight is even more one-sided than Spider-Man versus the original Wolverine. Here's some fun trivia for you though. Tom Holland said that his Spider-Man could beat the Logan version of Wolverine, the old man version, but would lose to the younger X-Men Origins Wolverine.
I'm gonna beat up that old man.
X-Men Origins.
He's going through it in
gonna
Logan.
batter me.
I think Wolverine beats Spider-Man every single time. Because there's no amount of battering that Spider-Man can do.
Tobey, though, in an issue of Wizard magazine from 2004, said his Spidey would beat Wolverine from X-Men 1 and 2. Deadpool also managed to sauce on Wolverine using some of Tobey's moves, so maybe it all adds up. Anyway, thanks for watching. Be sure to let me know who you think wins in the comments below. You can catch me live on stream on this very channel, and you can become a channel member or join my Patreon to access my private Discord server. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.